Hey guys, it's LunarTzuyu, also known as Mossman. Today I'm here to share with you guys a tier list for the new Epic Dash event. This event is running again, and basically they're giving RGB selectors as part of the rewards for the event. So I wanted to talk about these units in the context of Real-Time Arena, which is the endgame PvP game mode for Epic 7. So I'm going to talk about these units briefly. I want to point out that there's going to be no limited units since you cannot choose those from the selectors. So these are exclusively not RGB 5-star units that you can choose from the selector. Which ones are the best? I have 8 seasons worth of Legend of Finishes, which is the highest rank in the game, top 100. So I believe I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this. So here we go. First and foremost, in the S tier, these are going to be the 3 units that are probably most commonly seen and picked in games for this niche, which is RGB 5 stars. Starting off with Fire Litica. She hasn't been a opener that has been emerging in popularity throughout the season. Ever since her buffs, now she is a unit that can really bridge an aggressive composition. Basically, her S2 interacts with the Ranger artifact Renewed Will, and she's able to push her entire team up. So when you pair her with units such as Strays or ML Celine, she's able to push these aggressive damage dealers up so that you can really aggressively attack your opponent. Her S3 also works for S2. As long as they don't have a CR reduction unit like Politis or MLU Fiend on the enemy team, you S2 and then you immediately get to take your S3, and you can actually push back and defense break a target and ignore ER if it's binded, which is one of the debuffs included on your S2. So the S2 S3 combination pushes your team up, and you're able to actually push back and defense break one target of your choosing. Very oppressive debuffs and very strong unit. Mort is the next unit we want to talk about. He's mainly picked for his passive, which is negating the counter attacks of any unit besides him on the field. He's going to be commonly picked into units such as Omiki or Abyssal Fiend, 2 units that are very strong when they're able to counter attack a lot. He's going to negate all of that. And he also has a very strong damage dealing skill on his S3. It does AoE damage, and it also ignores ER and inflicts a Fear, which is a unique debuff to him. It is a 2-turn debuff that makes the enemy units not be able to do anything, although they do have a 40% chance to wake up. That's completely random. Finally, we have Politis, who is also picked for her passive. Basically, she reduces the amount of CR gained from units on the enemy team by 50%. And basically, right now, a lot of aggressive compositions want to use CR manipulation with units such as Litica or Ahmed. And basically, she's able to reduce the amount of CR that they gain. And also, when they use a non-attack skill, she actually pushes herself up and uses her S2, which basically will attack the enemy team and reduce their buff durations. And because you're pushing yourself up, you're able to then use your S3, which inflicts unbuffable and basically blind and kind of debilitates their enemy team. So she's a strong unit for that. In the past, she was kind of used as a damage dealer, but nowadays you mainly see the degen style build, which is tanky with either high effectiveness or high effect resistance, depending on the way you want to play her. Next off in the A tier, we have Blue Elena. So she's going to be commonly picked into AoE debuffers such as Ran or Green Litica. When you put Doctor's Bag on her, her S2 will actually cleanse 2 debuffs from your entire team when your team suffers AoE damage. And she also provides damage mitigation, which is very nice, all in one package. We also have Green Celine. While not as common as in past seasons, she is still a strong answer to compositions that rely on a lot of non-attack skills. So when you draft debuffers and the enemy opponent drafts multiple cleansers, these cleansers are all non-attack skills, and so she's very strong for essentially punishing the enemy team for using non-attack skills. Both her S2 and her S3 do big amounts of damage, and she also pushes herself by over 50% when you have the secret sword art artifact on her. Next in the B tier, these units are going to be more niche, but you do occasionally see them. So Yoha has been a emerging counterpick to Strays. Basically, you pick her on, you put her on Holy Sack and high HP, And basically, she actually inflicts damage to the enemy damage dealers based on how much damage she has taken. It's a percentage based. And then when she's low, she's able to use her S3 to kind of one shot an enemy team's unit because the damage is dealt proportionally to the amount of HP that she's missing. Next off, we have Monk, who used to be a powerhouse unit in previous seasons. Now she's not picked nearly as often, but she does still see play every now and then. She has the AoE S3, which basically resets the enemy team's units, and she also inflicts the bind on them, so they're not able to counterattack or dual attack. And then you can also seal with her S2. Because her S2 gives her an extra turn, you can do the S3 into the S2, and then you'll be able to seal one unit, and basically they're not able to proc their passive while they're sealed. Next off, we have Blue Pera, who does see play every now and then. She is an opener with very high base speed, so people like to pick her as a counter pick to the enemy team's openers that have lower base speed. So assuming equivalent speed gear, then she should be able to outspeed. Basically, her S2 will restrict and unbuffable the enemy team units, and basically they're not going to be able to get the CR push effects. And then her S3 basically gives her escort, which gives her like a damage sharing. So the rest of your units will not be taking as much damage because she's sharing the damage with them. And her S3 also gives them attack buff. The main issue with Blue Pera that she doesn't see much play now is that typically openers act as their own bridge. Ahmed gives an insane amount of CR push as well as skill nully to her team, and then Firelitica also bridges with renewed will. The unfortunate thing about Pera is that just because you outspeed with her, while you are able to debuff and stun, she doesn't actually bridge her own team by herself. You have to pick other units to bridge with her, which is why she's not nearly as popular as other openers now. Blue Ida is a combo unit. She's picked with openers that have non-attack skills, and basically she's able to soul burn S2, S3 to do AoE damage. Desna is a cleanser that is able to revive the entire team, so she's seen occasionally. And then Janua is a damage dealer that when he takes over 50% of his HP in damage, he procs his passive, and he's able to do lots of single target damage. The reason why he's not really seen as much anymore as in past seasons is that he relies on defense penetration, but ML Ilanov is a hero that is very commonly picked in most games, and so he's not really able to do nearly as much damage with her on the field. Blue Kisei is a unit that's pretty much picked with Ahmed as a combo unit. She's able to S3 into S2 and do insane amounts of damage. And then Elagos is a opener that also is able to bridge with his own artifact. He's commonly picked as a counter into Red Flan because he's able to reduce her resources to 0 and essentially do a lot of amount of damage to her and defense break her and then push his team up. Finally, in the C tier, we have units that are extremely niche and are going to be seen very rarely. So Arya used to be a behemoth in previous seasons. Now she's kind of just picked when the enemy team has a lot of fire units, and kind of is just used as like a sort of wall, because if you're not able to kill her, she's going to keep counterattacking you while the rest of her teammates are stealthed, and so she can be a strong unit in very niche scenarios. Rowana is picked if the enemy team has a lot of counter units, or like Solitary of the Snow is going to continue to provide your team with healing from the extra attack on her S1, but those types of situations happen pretty rarely. Fene is kind of a unit usually picked as a counter to ML Shu, which is why ML Shu's usage has gone down considerably, because she does additional damage based on how injured she is, and she ends up doing lots of damage while still healing her team on contact with S1. Elvira is a very niche counter to units such as the Young Senya, but she's pretty much not seen very often. She's also a counter to MLTU. She's pretty much just a counter pick to heroes, but whenever she gets picked, she pretty much gets banned, so she's very niche. And then Fire Ravi and Green Violets are kind of similar units. You use them against low damage enemy comps. For Fire Ravi, it's usually into green heavy compositions, while Violet is heavily picked into water heavy compositions, but there's not that many strong RGB units right now. I would say this season's meta is mainly ML5 dominated, so neither of these units really see much play. And then finally, we have Green Vildred, who is just a popular speed imprint that does AoE damage. So he's going to be picked when people are racing with their openers and they want to pick speed imprints. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. That was my RGB Epic Dash selector for RTA tier list. Thank you for watching once again. Hope you enjoy Epic 7.